I get it, you're staring at a list of industrial belt grinders and wondering if you're about to waste a solid chunk of cash on a machine that will sit idle in the shop or, worse, become a headache because it can't handle the steel you need to finish. You've probably read a few glossy specs, seen a couple of flashy videos, and now you're left asking, will this actually fit my workflow, or am I just buying a noisy paperweight? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started digging into the KAKA BG3, the first thing that jumped out was the sheer mass of the thing. At 187 pounds of solid cast iron, it's not something you can just will into a cramped corner and forget about. That weight translates into a very stable grinding platform, no wobble, when you're pulling a long strip of 79mm belt across a 3-inch width of structural steel. In a real shop, that means you can keep the belt tension tight, keep the workpiece flat, and avoid that dreaded belt jump that makes a rough cut turn into a safety issue. The motor is a 4-horsepower, 3-kilowatt unit. For a belt grinder, that's more than enough to chew through mild steel, stainless, and even the tougher alloys you might encounter in shipbuilding or heavy frame fabrication. In practice, the extra torque shows up when you're grinding down a weld bead that's a half-inch thick. Instead of having to slow the belt down and apply a lot of pressure, risking belt where you can keep a steady feed rate and let the motor do the heavy lifting. The downside? That kind of power draws a decent amount of electricity, so you'll want a dedicated 220-volt circuit rather than plugging it into a standard 110-volt outlet. If you're running a small home shop on a single-phase line, you might need an electrician to add a dedicated outlet, which adds to the upfront cost. Adjustability is another selling point. The grinding head slides up and down, letting you line up the belt to the exact height of the workpiece. I've seen a lot of belt grinders where the head is fixed, and you end up having to shim the workpiece or tilt the whole machine to get the right angle. With the BG3, you can set the head low for a flat grind on a plate, then raise it a few inches to tackle a vertical edge on a beam without any extra rigging. That flexibility is a real time saver when you're moving between jobs like prepping a pipe for welding 1 minute and cleaning a machined flange the next. Now, let's talk about the belts themselves. The unit comes ready for 379mm belts, which is a decent size for most industrial jobs. Those belts are typically sold separately, and you'll find a range of grit options from coarse for rapid material removal to fine for finish work. Because the machine is built for industrial metalwork, the belt tracking is robust. Once you get the belt aligned, it stays on track even when you push a hefty piece of steel through. However, the downside is that the belt tensioning knobs are a bit stiff, so getting the perfect tension can feel like a workout the first few times. It's not a deal breaker, but you'll want to set aside a few minutes each time you change a belt to make sure it's neither too loose, which leads to slippage, nor too tight, which shortens belt life. If you're the kind of shop owner who needs to grind large structural components, think ship hull sections, bridge girders, or heavy-duty frames, this machine is right up your alley. Its heavy base and high-power motor make short work of thick stock, and the adjustable head means you won't need a separate grinder for vertical versus horizontal work. On the other hand, if you're a hobbyist who mainly sands down small automotive parts or does occasional aluminum polishing, you'll probably find the BG3 overkill. The size, power draw, and price point make it a better fit for a commercial setting where the machine will see multiple hours of use each day. One practical strength that isn't always advertised is the dust extraction compatibility. The grinder has a standard 1-inch port that can be hooked up to a shop vacuum or a dedicated dust collector. In a real-world scenario, pulling the dust out as you grind prevents metal filings from coating nearby tools and keeps the air cleaner for anyone working in the same space. I tested it with a 3-stage collector, and the belt stayed relatively clean even after an hour of continuous grinding. If you skip a dust extractor, you'll notice the belt getting gritty faster, which can affect the finish quality and reduce belt lifespan. A hidden trade-off shows up when you consider the machine's footprint. Because it's built on a massive cast iron base, you'll need a sturdy floor that can support the weight without flexing. If you've got a lightweight metal frame shop floor, the vibration from the motor can transmit through the base and cause the whole structure to shake.